A foolproof lighting setup for portrait headshots is our topic today on Luminar Coffee Break, and it begins now. Hello, everyone. So glad you could join us. Now, earlier today, we had this killer live portrait headshot photo shoot, and we had members of our Skylum insiders watching along, and I explained to them exactly what I was doing. So what I'm going to do now for this rebroadcast is I have my good friend Carl Peterson. Hello, Carl.
Hi, Vidaly.
Glad you can have. So as you know, Carl's been helping out tremendously, monitoring a lot of the chats and helping out with Coffee Break. Actually, you took over two shows for me, so yeah. He's turning into a very strong asset. Thank you, Carl. But so, Carl,
You're welcome.
What did you think about that today with the group? They seemed pretty excited.
The group was very, very engaged as we did the live corporate headshots, trying to understand how you can do a simple and quick setup, get those shots done and ready for production. And I believe, Vidaly, you mentioned that the client was very happy with the outcome.
Yeah, so now this was kind of a, what's the word I'm looking for? A slam dunk, because Felicia's a very good friend of mine, and she's an art director and a graphic artist. So having her on set, all I said to her was, what are you going to use this for? And I'm going to show you a video that we did for the lighting setup, and she told me exactly what they wanted. And she's right over my shoulder. So the moment I took the picture, she looked at it and said, that's good, on to the next one. And then she never worked with Luminar before. So I showed her quickly how we could smooth skin, enhance the eyes, get rid of dark circles under the eyes. She was floored. So I can't wait for her to test it out. So what I'm going to do for her is I'm going to go through and do some edits, but still give them all the raw files, so she can do what she wants with them. I'm not going to crop any of the images because she wants to be able to crop them for whatever they're using it for. All right. So, Carl, what I'm going to do is let's roll the video that we shot ahead of time, and then we'll take some questions and answers you may have. All right. Here we go. 1 second. Let me grab it here. There we go. Now I got it. Here we go. Hey guys, so here we are on the special corporate portrait photo shoot. I have Felicia here with me. Now we're in for a bonus because she's also the art director and the graphic artist. So ahead of time, right, we talked about what we wanted to do. Yeah. So this is gonna be real simple. She told me exactly what she wanted because she's gonna be the one using these for what? Business cards?
Website, social media, flyers, everything.
So we're doing it in such a way to where the background, she could just click on it and it erases. We're going to use a gray card here. So if you want to hold it just like this, with your fingers. Now, to set the lighting properly, I put the power of the light. So the 5 areas we've talked about: shutter, ISO, your f-stop, we already have those down. Now, when you're dealing with flash photography, you have light to subject distance and the power of the light. Well, the light to subject distance, I'm not moving these lights. The light is set in here, that's set here, those aren't moving. Done. Power of the light, we've already negotiated the power. Shutter speed, we're going to shoot at 1/160th of a second. I know my f-stop is going to be, I want it to be around f4 to 5.6. And then, of course, our ISO is 100. So the variable I'm going to deal with is my f-stop. And I do that based on where I'm positioning the light in her. All right, so let me do a real quick test. So on the background, f8, perfect. So I want that to be f8. And I want this here to be f4. So this right here is 2 stops. That's 2 stops brighter, so that's going to be pure white. Now, even though it's a 2-light setup, we're going to make it look like a 3-light setup, because when the light bounces back onto Felicia, I want that to be 5.6, and sure enough, we're at 5.6. So f8, 1 stop down, 5.6, so it's going to rim right here, nice and beautiful. And then this here is going to be the key light. All right, so I'm using a lasso light, high key, from lasso light. We stick a light in it, This acts like a huge softbox. And now we have this, and one last is the gray card. So if you want to switch over, I'm going to take a quick shot of this. Now, to trigger these lights, I have to use a radio trigger, and I'm using the Pocket Wizards. I have one attached to here on channel 1, channel 1, channel 1, and the light meter is Pocket Wizard compatible, so it fired. Now I'm going to take a first shot. Got it. One more. Good. So I'm going to look real quick. That looks great. We have the white card out of the way, so we can take the white card back. Thank you. Now we're going to have fun. All right. So right from here, Felicia, just come off the edge of the chair just a little. Perfect. Right there. Good. There we are. I like it. I like it. Good. Just fix your hair just a little bit. Nice. Nice. Ready? And I'll give one more shot for good luck. And there we are. Awesome. You know, I went a little too high on that one. So let me do this. I'm going to move over just a little bit to make sure the chair's not in the scene. There we go. Got it. And that's perfect. Awesome. All right. We have about 15 minutes, right? And then we're going to bring in about how many people? 15 people. Wow, 15. So in about 15 minutes, we'll have about 15 people. We'll run through this. Each shot should take no more than a couple of minutes. So we should be done in about 30 minutes or so, depending on the people coming in. And awesome. All right, guys. That's how we do a foolproof corporate portrait headshot. Again, make sure that background, if you want it to be pure white, is going to be 2 stops for whatever I set to the camera. And again, the camera settings is we put it at f4, 100 ISO, and then my shutter speed was 1/160th of a second, and all that really is doing is blocking out this ambient light. In fact, that's one thing I forgot to do, which I'll do real quick, is I'm going to shut the lights off and take a shot. Beautiful. And my goal, which it did, came out nearly black. So that means that none of these lights are affecting the scene. All right? We'll see you guys soon. So there we go, Carl. It was fun. We had a blast doing this. And of course, Felicia was such a great sport filling in. Now, I made it look real simple, but we were there earlier, about 20 to 30 minutes ahead of time. We set everything up. One thing I didn't mention, which I wish I did, how did I get 5.6 in the back of her hair? What I did was I made sure that the light and that the high key was f8. And then I just took the light meter and just marched it back towards the camera and just kept pressing it. Pressed it. You know, it went to f8, f7, then it went to like 6.3, and then it went to 5.6. So that's where we placed the chair. Put the subject there, and then we went in and did the key light. And, you know, and keep in mind the other thing is we used Godox. Well, they're Flashpoint, which is an off-brand, or it's a brand of Godox. And I was shocked at the power those lights had, and they're very inexpensive. But we were shooting at something like 1/16th power. I had to put it on for the key light, and 1/8 power on the background. All that meant was the battery-operated strobes were able to last the entire shoot without them, you know, dying on us. And the other reason for battery-operated is I didn't have to worry about any cords tripping people up. Now, had I had traditional lights with the cords, we would bring either gaff tape to tie it down, or we would throw a rug over it and then make sure that nobody trips over it. All right? So, Carl, fire away with any of the questions you have.
Okay, so one of the questions we have from the group today is, you mentioned 3 light sources, but you really only had 2 light sources. So exactly how did you work that? What do you mean by a 3rd light source?
Gotcha. All right, so with that, we had the key light coming in under the subject, and that had a softbox on it. So a little bitty, itty bitty light source was like that wide. By putting that that softbox on it, now it became a huge light source, and you could see that in their pupils of her eyes because the catch lights look beautiful. That's light number one, key light. The second light behind us was to illuminate that big white softbox. So the high key from last light, just think of it as a big, huge softbox, 6 foot by 7 foot. Put that puppy in there, fire it away, and now that whole thing just it's brightly lit. So third light source, without using a real light or another light, introduce another light, was to take the meter, the light meter, take the shot, and it came out to, like you said, F8, and when we marched it back, I knew that light was 5.6, and it was going to rim around her shoulders, her cheek, her hair. So if, let's say that were a black backdrop, then we would put a hair light up on top, and that would separate the person from the background. So earlier, the CEO came in, or the president came in, and he was wearing a pure white shirt. So we shot white on white, and you would think, oh my God, that's going to kill us. Nope. By using that concept, like I said, he was rimmed really good with light. So when I photographed it, it was simple. All right?
Right. So if I understand, you took your light meter to the back reflective white background. You made sure you had an f8 exposure as you were triggering it with the meter. So I don't know if everybody noticed, but you were pushing a little button on the meter, which was triggering the lights. You then walked forward until you found where you now had f8 or 2 f-stops brighter. And that's
5.6.
where you sat the subject. Okay. Yeah, 5.6, sorry, brighter.
So one stop
Brighter,
darker. Yeah, so one stop darker than the background.
Okay. And then that's how you got the halo light from behind and yet had full lighting on the front.
Yep.
All right.
And then
brilliant.
the full one. Perfect.
Okay.
All right.
So our next question from the group was, do you make adjustments or do you have to make changes based on different complexions of skin?
Yeah, okay, that's a good one. And it's so funny because my assistant that I hired was actually my son. And when a darker complexion person came in, he noticed right away there was up on top, there was a little reflection. You could definitely see that the overhead light, which didn't have an effect on the scene anyways, but still, you could definitely tell where it was going to end up being very shiny. He whipped out a diffuser, and I just smiled, like, you know what? And I think of course I was proud as a father, excuse me, but I was more proud of as an educator that here was somebody who took lessons with me years ago, and without hesitation, he did what a perfect assistant would do. He predicted what I would ask, and I looked over at him, and he just put the diffuser in between the light source. Now, that made the top of the head, well, if you look at this right here, you see it, Carl? Unfortunately, my baldness here is giving that, so that little reflection. If that was a major concern, I can do it with my hand here. Look at that. See that? But you would do a translucent material, which is a diffuser, and you would put that in between it, and that cut it down about a half a stop. So the darker complexion subjects were were exposed good, and I may have to do a little tweaking with probably Accent AI just to bring back some of the exposure, but that shininess on their forehead is completely gone.
Right. And if we are doing still photos like that, we can use the face AI, right, and cut down the shine, or skin AI and cut down the shine a little bit to help with that. But the skin complexion made a difference in the reflectivity of the skin. So your assistant put a diffuser up to block some of the overhead lights, the room lights, basically, to stop that shiny bounce.
Well, keep in mind the room light had no bearing on the exposure whatsoever.
Oh, it's the key light. Okay.
So the key light did, but that gave you an idea of what was going to happen. See, so these battery operated strobes, they're phenomenal to be out in the field, and what we did today. But what they lack is a modeling lamp. And a modeling lamp would actually let you see what you see is what you get. You'll see all the shadows falling on the subject. and also a modeling lamp are going to make the pupils of the eyes constrict and just look really small. So now the iris of the eyes are going to jump right out at you. That's right. So that's how you can tell if it was a studio shoot, an outdoor shoot, or a very high end shoot. You know, once like here, you can see my eyes are dilated because, or not dilated, restricted because that light that's shining on me is extremely bright. So what we used to do in a case like this, shine a flashlight into a person's face, you have them close their eyes, open, shine the flashlight, hit the shot, you know, move it, click it, you know, but that's a pain in the neck. So,
yeah.
All right.
Nobody likes that. I understand. Could you tell us about the different kinds of triggers for lights and what you were using during this shoot?
All right, perfect. So there are many different types of triggers. Like those Godox system or the Flashpoint system, they actually have their own. And it's specific to Nikon, Canon, Sony, so on. I don't know if they have it for Fuji. I'm not quite sure, but it's for its own system. To make it simple, now I could have used that and just used one trigger, and then all of them has built-in receivers. So you use that trigger, you push it, boom, it triggers all the lights. Since I wasn't 100% comfortable with using that, again, this wasn't my gear, my buddy Richie Acevedo loaned me it. I didn't want to use that trigger, so I reverted to Pocket Wizards. They just work. Pocket Wizards, they've been around forever, and they don't need, especially the X model. The X model is independent from cameras. So it doesn't matter which camera you're using, you could use the X model. So I had, on the camera, I had one on the camera, one on the key light, one on the backlight, and they were all set to channel 1. Now, when I triggered it, all the lights went off easily. Now, if I didn't have an extra Pocket Wizard, let's say I only had 2, one would go on the camera, the other would go on that key light, or the other would go on that backlight behind us, because once it triggered and that light bursted like this, it automatically triggers the key light, which would be set on slave. All right. But honestly, if you're going to invest and you're going to do triggers, either use what came with the lights or spend the extra money and buy the extra ones you need for all the lights. All right.
So for reliability, you tend to use radio based triggers.
Exactly.
They just work.
Yeah.
Versus ones
line
that
of sight.
trigger off
Yeah.
the flash, because you didn't want to use a flash over the lens in this case.
Exactly.
Because it would light the eyes incorrectly, etc. So you wouldn't want to use that in this case.
Exactly. Yeah, because again, it's line of sight. So inside that softbox was that light. Well, it may not have recognized a flash. So by putting a trigger on it, that key light definitely recognized a flash because it was so huge. Those Pocket Wizards, sometimes we would put them outside. So we're inside shooting, and we wanted to emulate window light. You would stick it outside and let it shine through the window. So now it looks like, window light. If you try to do that with line of sight, it would never do it.
Never work, yeah.
Yeah. Now I think the farthest I ever shot mine, because I was using a 80 to 200 millimeter lens, maybe like 40 feet. Rick Freeman was like, oh my God, like 300 yards. I mean, he was far. So a lot of pros will use them, let's say in basketball games, and they'll put the lights up in the rafters. And when they don't, the Coliseum does. And when they walk in, they're handed a Pocket Wizard or a trigger, and that particular photographer has those lights assigned to him or her. And when they trigger, but look how far they are. So, like I said, it just works.
And that's
All
the
right.
advantage of having different channels in that case, is that each of the
Ex-
photographers has their own channel slave to their own lights so that they don't interfere with each other, etc.
Nice.
Okay, yeah, brilliant.
So
And as you
that was a
said, the
good.
Pocket Wizards are not tremendously expensive for what
No,
you get.
the X are pure basic, 1 through 10 channels. They're like, I think like $100. The other ones are a little bit more expensive, like 250 to 300. People swear by them. Now, when we're at trade shows, I will admit it is kind of funny. Like you'll listen to something like I had Lindsay Adler. She was in the other room next to me, and I heard her making a comment. She was on channel 3, and so I purposely put mine on channel 3. And I said, "Guys, listen, click. Hey, what's going on with my lights?" Fidelity must be around here somewhere. So I know it, but it's funny.
Okay. All right. So we have a final question here today, which is, what if you don't have a lasso light highlight as you did? What would you do? What other kinds of things could you do to get the shoot?
All right, perfect. Now, the particular one I've had it for, oh my God, I can't even think how many years. It's old. It's really, really old. There's like, to set it up, there's these little, think of an arrow, that fiberglass, so that they have these little spacers. Well, I'm missing 2 of those spacers. And there's a huge stain on it. And my son goes, I go, hey, how can we fix this? He goes, stop being cheap and buy a new one. They're like $600. So I'm still going to be cheap. If I didn't have that, like in the very beginning, I didn't have one of those, I would use a white wall, or you would buy white paper and put the paper down. Gray paper will work. You saw the room I was in. It was like a yellowish type room. You flood that wall with so much light, it turns pure white. So you can still get it done. But instead of that being, let's arbitrarily, let's say I put that channel on a quarter power. I put it on 1/16, or 1/16 power, or I'm sorry, 1/8 power, because I knew that it was going to produce an f-stop of f8. But in a case like this, I may have to crank that sucker up to a strength of 11 at almost full power. So that would be like, let's say, a quarter power or a half power, just to get all that light to hit that wall, to make it look white, and then bounce a little bit back. So it can still be done. But you saw my car, Carl. There's no way I could put a 6-foot or an 8-foot roll of paper in my car. There's no way. This thing is just a round, just think of this as big, huge frisbee, a round reflector, and then you open it up and you install it. So if you don't have one, now you could use anything, like with the wall, like this brick wall behind me would never work because there's too many patterns to it. But if it was a solid color, let's say gray or lighter, a black wall would not. You could try to do black, but it's going to be a lot harder. So anything like gray, lighter, you can make that into a pure white background just by throwing as much light as you can at it. All right?
Okay. And that's all the questions we had for today, Vanelli. So thank you.
Awesome. Well, it was a blast. I mean, she called me and said, hey, do you know anybody in town that could do these? Now, it's a designing firm. And I was like, oh, my right-hand man, Richie, is slammed with work. And, my son, who was phenomenal, he walked in and he was, all right, what do you want? What do you want, old man? And he goes, oh, here we go again. Set it here. In fact, originally, Carl, you saw that conference room I was in. So imagine this huge conference table. There was no place to shoot in there. And I panicked for a minute. Excuse me. And I thought, you want us to shoot in here? Oh, God. We're going to be like so tight. Can we take over this room instead? And she said, sure, no problem. We took the table out. And that little alcove was perfect for what we had to shoot in. And it was great. So I did tell Felicia, if I can't find somebody, I'll do the shoot. and she got all excited, and it went from like 7 people to 14 people. They said, well, if you're going to do it, let us bring everybody in. And so they brought everyone from the artistic team to the sales team to the president and so on. So it was fun. And you saw it only took maybe 2 or 3 minutes max per person. It took longer to set the gear up than it did to do the photo shoot. So that was it. But Carl, we had, like I said, we had a blast, and I was so happy that I could share it with our Skylum community. That was just absolutely awesome. All right.
It was tremendous fun to be able to watch you actually work live.
Awesome. And we're going to try to do more of these, maybe on a cruise. No, we're trying to do more of these, and I think it'll be awesome just to have people with us, because you heard some of our people asking questions. Oh my God, I was so amazed. I was so, you would have thought I paid them to ask these questions. So we were proud. Well, Carl, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule for doing this outtake of what we did of the broadcast. Right? And I'll see you tomorrow. All right. Well, everyone else, thank you so much for joining us. And I hope this was educational. And I'll see you at the next coffee break.